And we are live, and this is Coach Arnie with WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and Podcast, the #1 internet singles program. So Health, Love, and Life show with me. And we are going to, first of all, let's go over where you can find me. There's my phone number right there. And feel free to call me, email me, text me. You know, if we need to, we can have a virtual cup of coffee. Just share with me what's on your heart, what's in your gut, what are your thoughts. Would love to listen to you and give you some advice. TikTok, Twitter, Real Coach Arnie, LinkedIn, Facebook, Arnie Fonseca Jr. I'm also Coach Arnie on Facebook as well in my group. And you can also find me at Coach Arnie F on Instagram. Or if you can't remember any of that, just type in Arnie Fonseca Jr. or Arnie Fonseca into Google and you'll get lots of stuff and you can find me. So if you ever say to yourself, I can't find this guy, you're not trying. You're not trying. So let's before we get into it, because you never know, my guests may actually show up, but when we do live shows like we're doing right now, every once in a while you get a left turn on you. And tonight my guest, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but my guest has not shown up. But one of the things that I like to do, first of all, I always prepare. Well, I'm bringing up some notes here. I always prepare to do the show on my own anyways. You know, it's kind of funny. Let's talk about this for a minute. Because I'm an adventure athlete as well. And I love to do adventures so that I can, one, have the experience, and two, share with you guys that experience and what it meant to me and how it allows me to grow in life. So let me share with you a current experience. Well, current and past, which is why I did it. A few years ago, I had a great adventure planned for the Grand Canyon. And everybody was worried. Even one of my coaches was worried because I'd never done it before. I mean, I'd done the Grand Canyon, but I wanted to do it in the summer. So I was getting lots of feedback. As Winston Churchill was saying, the crows were speaking. So I was hearing a lot of this stuff, but I was listening to it, which was saying stuff like, oh, it's unsafe. You could be hurt. This could be terrible. And so a friend of mine in Colorado recommended that a guy he met would be a great companion on this adventure. And so he sent him my name and information. We actually talked like, geez, I even did 2 podcasts with him prior to this adventure. And we planned, we had podcasts. I mean, I was very strategic in what the plan was. And so he flew in here to Phoenix. I picked him up at the airport, stayed at my house. We drove up there to the Grand Canyon. We were all excited. I actually had a weird experience on the way down. I fell and had a little tweak, but it was okay. I was fine because I was able to push through. And I was worried about me because this guy was a superior athlete and 20 years younger than I was. And so we started about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we had reached the north. My goal was to reach the North Rim by midnight. Well, we got there a little before midnight and just cruising along, going slow and steady. Get to the North Rim. I'm like, wow, we're ahead of schedule. This is fun. We're having a good time. Weather's perfect. You know, it's not too hot. And plan's working. And okay, dump some trash, get something to eat. And I'm going, you ready to go? He goes, I don't know. That was exactly how he said, I don't know. And I go, okay, I'll give you a couple minutes. So I was just talking to a couple people and just kind of Ready to, no, actually, yeah, just ready to go. Waiting. I go, okay, what do you think? And he goes, I don't think it's a good idea. And I go, what do you mean it's not a good idea? He goes, well, I just don't think it's a good idea. I go, are you hurt? He goes, no. I go, well, let's go. It's midnight. We're on the north rim of the Grand Canyon. There's no one here. We don't have hotel reservations. Now, I did make one mistake as I backtracked. In our planning, there is a shuttle that runs from the north rim all the way around back to the south rim. It cost about $90. It is $90. And but I wasn't quite sure, but it didn't start running until 5:00 in the morning. We're at the canyon at midnight. It was not exactly hot. It was getting kind of cold. And I said, well, we got to do something. And he goes, well, and so he went down. He was sitting down the trail to get a little warm. And I'm seething by this point. And to make a long story short, he didn't want to go. Now, my ego got in the way and said, you need to take care of this youngster. Versus I should have just said, have a nice life. Now, the interesting thing is, remember I said that van that takes you around? I told him it was $100 to bring $100. Well, he didn't even bring any money. Now, for whatever reason, before I left my house, I stuck $200 bills in my pack. I don't know why, but I did. And so we get to the stop. First of all, long story short, we spent the night at the North Rim Lodge because a wonderful fellow let us stay there. I was seething. Thank God for my daughter and her boyfriend at the time, who walked me off the edge because I was ready to kill somebody. He went right to sleep. And 5:00 in the morning, we get on the van. We're halfway home. They ask us for our money. He goes, what money? And I said, it's $100. He goes, oh, I don't have that. I said, and I took out the money, gave it to him. Remember, I put 200s in there. And I turned around to him. I said, as soon as we get into town, we're stopping at the first bank and you're going to pay me back, which I did. But my ego got in the way. See, I should have said him, he's a grown up. He's an adult. Deal with it. Okay. And I'll see you on the other side. So, but I didn't. But I learned a lesson. I learned a valuable lesson. So this year I'm planning a big adventure. And in a minute, this will all make sense. I'm planning a very big adventure, and everybody's worried because it's a big adventure. I'll share it with you guys right here. I'm going to do 6 crossings of the Grand Canyon, which would be a double. So you're actually going across the river 6 times. And I'm planning on doing it in October. It'll be crowded. It's just more fun. And but everybody's worried. Oh, you need to go with somebody. Oh, you need this. And I haven't really laid down any tracks for that. I am going to work on a team to have help, support, on the rims. But as far as going with me, I learned my lesson. Because rule number 1, better bring $100 because I'm going to drop you if you have any trouble. Because the last thing I'm going to do is let somebody who's there to help me get in my way. So the fact that, CC has allowed me to do this show, I'm always prepared to do the show. So that's right now, we're learning something. We're learning that be prepared. If you're responsible, be responsible. And then we'll get into some addiction stuff here. I also have another quick little anecdotal story. My coach for 46 years now, 46 years has, he has a place that he runs. It's a gym, but it's a nonprofit because he was basically up until just a few years ago, just letting everybody just come there and work out. Well, he can't do that because you got to get equipment, fix stuff, whatever. So I helped him a years ago create a nonprofit because at the time he was using mine, but we had to kind of clean things up, and we couldn't do that anymore. And so we made sure that he had all his paperwork, everything, according to the person helping him. And we're going to get him all set up so he can have his own and raise his own money and all this good stuff. So fast forward almost a year, and we find out that his son, who I was talking to multiple times about questions and things to set it up, he made a decision that it was too expensive. He wasn't paying for it. It's his dad's money, and didn't tell anybody. So in the meantime, they're out there raising money, which is fraud. And so the other day they asked me to help to clean this thing up. And I said, well, guys, this is a family thing, and I don't want to, it's emotional, because I don't want to get in you guys' way, because, it's like a domestic dispute, don't step in those. They go, no, we'll take care of it. I said, okay. So I went over there when I was leaving, and I just said, hey, look, we'll get this all fixed up for you, and hopefully it'll be taken care of. And he felt bad. That's my coach. And then I was ready to leave, and he said that. I said, you know what? I'm glad you said that, because yeah, you're right. We are 100% responsible for our actions, because I didn't sit there and blame anybody. I blamed him. He was responsible, because that's what he taught me. So I'm responsible for this here, because people, my guest might have just had something bad happen. What if one of his kids got hurt, or his dog? I don't know. Maybe he got in a car accident, for all I know. So, I'm not going to judge him on that. That's not my job. My job is to put on a show, and we're going to have a show here, and we've already learned something. Be prepared. Take responsibility for your stuff, and prepare to go alone. But the joy of having a partner or a friend is a bonus. It's magic. It's a bonus. Okay. So, but we're going to talk about addiction and gambling today. But, as I was doing some homework here for my guest, he sent me a book, and the name of the book is, for those of you that are interested, and forgive me for looking at my notes here, guys. It's called 7 Steps to Kill Your Gambling Addiction. And so look it up. It's an online book. 7 steps, and I'll read you a little bit of the promo here. About me, who I am, how I lost $100,000 gambling and then rebuilt my life and became successful. My name is Mark, and I'm 23 years old, and I was a victim of heavy gambling addiction. I lost it all, and I went through everything a compulsive gambler goes through. Everything I ever worked for in my entire life. I lost it in 1 year due to gambling addiction. $100,000 of hard-earned money. So as I was, we've all heard of gambling, and it's like food, food addiction. When I first started to learn about food addictions, I was like kind of shocked on how big a deal it was and how deadly it was, how real deadly it was. And so, gambling is somewhat in the same ballpark, because if we're not careful, a lot of the same symptoms of other types of addictions are also symptoms of gambling addictions, like substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, depression, anxiety, bipolar, OCD, ADD. These are all very common amongst gamblers. Think about that. My God. But I found the same thing when I was working in the food addiction field. Alcoholism, drug addiction, bipolar, OCD, all the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's pretty crazy. So that's what I was learning here with the gambling stuff. It was very intriguing as I kept to read here. And then because of my expertise with the brain, I was curious about, okay, so what's going on here? Is it similar to other types of addiction that prey on the reward center of the brain? And lo and behold, activates the reward system of our brain, just like a drug. Yeah, I know. It scares me. I mean, I was just telling Cece a few minutes ago that when I used to go to Vegas on a regular basis, I didn't like gambling. Okay. I didn't like gambling because I don't like to lose money. Now, I'll gamble on me all day long. I'll gamble on life. I'll take big risks, phone calls, take shots in business because I'm backing me up. But if I'm throwing dice on a table, or I'm pulling out an arm, or I'm holding cards that somebody gave me, man, I don't know. I fold up like a cheap tent. I'm of no use at all. And I think it has a lot to do with my mindset. Whereas my wife, when she used to gamble, she was a gunslinger. She didn't care. And she won a lot. Whereas I cared and I lost a lot. So I didn't feel good. So why do it? You know, remember I think we've done a show on it. If not, I'm going to do another one on it. But remember our level 1, 2, 3, and 4 of life's experiences, because, you know, to me, it's a level 4 experience. It didn't feel good. It wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for others, and it didn't serve the greater good. To me, gambling is a level 4 experience. And so you might be thinking, why would you ever do that? Exactly. But there are still people that do that. Just like drugs, alcohol, pornography, and other really terrible, just behavioral things. Okay. It's only terrible if it leads to terrible things, like hurting people. Okay. Hurting your family, that kind of hurting yourself. So it was easy for me to stop gambling. It never felt good anyways. It's like, honestly, I sent to a client a book today by a gentleman that wrote a book a couple of years ago on drinking and on this whole binge drinking, social drinking aspect. Not so much a hardcore, I'm an alcoholic for 20-year book, but it's for, more younger people, social drinkers, and how it's becoming more in vogue and more cool to not drink. Really good book. It's like God was just really working on my heart today, and this is a perfect book. Shot it right over to him. And he goes, I'm going to read this on the way to work or listen to it. It's an audiobook. So, I mean, but that reward system is powerful. So if we have that, what they call addictive personality, and that reward system is activated, because what I wrote here is people prone to addiction have an underactive reward system in our brain. So it's not getting the right kind of stimulation. And so when it gets fed that drug or that activity, we want more of it because we're hungry. Our brain is hungry for that stuff. So it's looking for ways to stimulate it. It could be gambling. It could be sex. It could be drugs. It could be other bad behaviors. Oh, wow. I just got to, God's really working on my heart right now, because the person I was just talking to you about sending a book, he just sent me a note talking about how he wants to sign up for an event, a half Ironman, because he wants to make a difference. He wants to get better, and sometimes doing something like that is a way out of the pit that you're in. So gamblers, though, or any type of addiction, whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, they can't get out of this deep, dark pit. I'm looking at a picture right here in my office. I should take it down, but no, I'm not. And I have it up there. It's a deep pit, and there's a person a very angelic person at the bottom of it. And it reminds me that people in addiction are in a deep, dark pit, and they're waiting for me or you or somebody that will gird up, bring out a sword, come into the pit, help them slay the dragon that's next to them. Because when you're in an addiction, you are sitting next to a dragon, a monster that you cannot fight. And so you freeze. You stay in that hole, the hole of gambling, the hole of drugs, and because you can't get out. And it's scary, and you're scared. And so what do we do when we're scared? We freeze. And that's what happens a lot of times. Let's hold that thought for a second here as we take just a little pause for a few minutes, for a couple seconds. This is WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast, #1 internet singles network. And I'll be right back in just a second, so hang on. All right, we are back. Now let's continue now our conversation that we're having about addiction and gambling per se. The thing about gambling is that it's very similar in how it affects our brain. So I've kind of taken this thing, since my guest didn't show up, I kind of swung this thing over into my my lane, which is the brain. And I'm going to be honest with you, Mark, if you're listening, is that I was able to take a level 2 experience that didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to have somebody not show up, but it could be good for me, and it could be good for others, and it could serve the greater good, because if I learn from this and become more of an expert on gambling and addictions with gambling, it gives me another tool in my belt to help people. And I don't know if I would have spent that much time learning it. I mean, I would have listened to Mark, but I don't know if I would have spent that much time obsessing or learning about gambling either. Regardless, I did. So I'm ready. So we're going to have a conversation. So we talked about how the brain reward system needs to be stimulated. Okay. So let's, another thing I was learning about was compulsive gambling. And I'm going to pull up some more notes here. Some compulsive gambling in that there's this tension that they feel. And any of you guys have ever been compulsive about anything, something is needed to relieve that stress. And the only thing that does that for many individuals is the thing itself. So it could be gambling, could be sex, could be drugs, alcohol. You got to have the drink, right? You got to go out and have an affair or whatever it might be to relieve the tension. And that's what causes the problems. So now let's look at a couple other things here. How about just general health? Here's some things I wrote down. Problem gambling is harmful to the psychological and physical health. People who live with this addiction may experience depression, migraine. We didn't talk about distress, intestinal disorder, their gut. Okay, that was me when I'm out there gambling because I don't want to lose. And other anxiety-related problems. As with other addictions, the consequences of gambling can lead to feelings of despondency and helplessness because you lose control. You don't know what to do to get through this. You don't want to tell anybody because pride. So we wait until we're like this guy here that wrote the book. We're $100,000 in debt. That's a problem. because then you might be in trouble. Otherwise, I watched the movie over Christmas, Adam Sandler movie. It was called Gem. I don't know if it did very good in the movie. It was a little dark, and this guy got in so much trouble gambling. And even though at the very, I don't want to ruin the movie, but he had money, and he couldn't control himself, and it cost him everything. You know, it was dark. And, you know, I mean, but I've seen that before. I've seen it in addictions with alcohol and drugs, sex, gambling, obviously. God, you name food. Food's a big one. You know that food is the only addiction that you cannot go without the drug. See, I can get better by not gambling. I can get better without drinking. I can get better without doing the drugs. I can get better by avoiding the pornography or the extramarital affairs. Okay? I can get better. I can't get better by avoiding food. It's called fasting, but it's forced fasting, and you will die. So, yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? Think about that for a second. You got to have your drug to live. So as far as sex and your health, it's a killer. Stress itself is a killer, guys. You know, I know how that feels. You know, in this last year when my son died, I mean, the stress and with my wife and all the other things going on was not easy. And it takes a lot of work to not let that overwhelm you. You know, exercise and meditation, and still it's hard. And I'm in it. I teach this stuff. So not easy. So let's look at some other things I looked at here. How about here's one I wrote. Does a gambler ever stop? I don't know. Does a drinker ever stop? Well, you cannot force people to stop. You can't make people behave. No matter what you say or do, ultimately, the only person who can stop gambling is the gambler. I could put any word in there for gambling. Food, alcohol, drugs, sex. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We can't get people to behave. Just like my friend Joe Pesci says, unless you're ready to be coached, I can't coach you. He won't even try. Now, I'm a little different because I'm more of what I call an emotional coach. So I'm going to deal with the emotions of the moment. And which is why I guess you could call it playing in the mud sometimes, because it gets awful dirty down here because people are messy. And I embrace that. I'm not saying it's always fun. The joy comes in seeing the success. But just like finding diamonds, you got to move a lot of dirt to find the diamonds and the gold, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. If you're around somebody that's a compulsive gambler, addicted gambler, you can get angry, I guess. I'm not gonna tell you not to get angry. You can leave, but you can't make anybody do something. You can punish all day long. You can fine them, punish them, do whatever you want. If they're not ready to change, they're not going to change. We talked about change. I believe we did here on this show. And it's hard. Change is super, super hard. So just remember that. Let's go on some other things I wrote here. How about this one? Yeah. Especially if you're married. Can you write off these losses? It's like I kind of saw that one. It's kind of chuckled, but bankruptcy and gambling debts. I don't know. How about this? Gambling debts, including debt incurred from casinos or charged on credit cards and loans, can be discharged in bankruptcy. I don't know if that's good or not, guys. I guess. I mean, if somebody's creating a business, they're a gambler. It's a business, right? Or not? So are we enabling people to just file bankruptcy? I know people that file bankruptcy a lot. And they're not even business guys. How do they do this? It's like people that drive around with 2, 3, 4 DWIs or DUIs and all that stuff. How? And they're still driving like it's nobody's business. And still drinking. Only in America. Okay. So, yeah. So you can discharge you in a bankruptcy. There you go. It's important to know that any creditor can object to the bankruptcy filing by claiming you incurred the debt under false pretenses or through fraud. Could. You know, unless you're a real big shot, though, they're probably not going to care. No, you racked up $100,000, write it off on your credit cards in bankruptcy. Okay. So you really didn't learn a lesson. Right? You really didn't learn a lesson. So let's look at another thing here. Ooh, let's get into some relationship stuff here. How does it affect? And these are general things. I mean, if you Google it, you're going to find a lot of stuff on gambling. I was surprised. It's a lot. Gambling problems affect the functioning, but some of this is pretty understandable. Affects the family and intimate relationships, impaired family relationships, emotional problems, and financial difficulties are some of the most common impacts on family members of people with gambling problems. That's a given. I mean, I think the number one cause for marital split ups is money. So let's make it worse and go out gambling and lose it. I mean, it's different than somebody going out, I guess, and buying nice clothes. At least you have the clothes. Or spending it on, I don't know, computer equipment and programs, and at least you have that. But when you blow it on gambling, unless you're a winner, you have nothing. You have nothing. It's gone. That's the problem. So let's go back here to my notes. My the gentleman I helped this morning has blown up my phone because he's excited about getting out of that hole. So let's see if he's excited tomorrow. Let's see when he's excited after his training. It's like we get excited to run a marathon, right? Until we actually have to go out there and run a marathon. I remember, I'm going down a rabbit hole. I remember 14 years ago. Yeah. 14 years ago, I decided to jump into a off-road triathlon after not having done any for 20 years. Think about this. And I got excited. I was watching the Super Bowl, and they had this Xterra race off-road. This is cool because I never liked riding on the streets anyways because it was dangerous. I go, I can do that. I'll get a mountain bike. I'll start training. I'm going to start training tomorrow. So Monday comes. I went over to my clinic. I had my old running shoes I had literally not run in over 20 years. I grabbed them out of my closet, stiff, and I put them on. That was heavy. It was too heavy. and I took out the back door of my clinic. I forgot, maybe lunchtime or something. I'm going to go out for just a quick jog, right? I headed out. There's this dirt field. It's now houses, but I ran out there. Turned around after about 1.5 miles. I'll just do 3 miles. On the way back, I thought I was going to die. I did. It was horrible. I'm thinking, what a mess. I'm a joke. And then, and I had like 2 months to train for this thing. And then the next day, I think I went to the swimming pool. Or it was 2 days. It was Monday, then Wednesday. Went to the swimming pool. And at a local health club. And I thought, I'm going to go out there and swim. I used to do this stuff, man. I was a triathlete. And I hadn't swam in 20 years. Seriously. So I go in there, I'm swimming. I think I swam for like a half hour, 45, maybe. Terrible. Didn't know what I was doing. I get back, I drive back to my clinic, and I start working with people about 10 o'clock. And by noon, I felt like somebody hit me with a brick. Seriously, I thought I had the flu or something. I went, and we have this area in the back. We had this area in the back where you could just lay down. So I went back there and just passed out. And I told people, I can't work this afternoon. Somebody's going to have to cover for me. And I literally passed out till 7 o'clock. And I don't think it was a flu. I think it was because I was training for the first time in 20 years. So, but I was determined, and I did pretty good. I got back into it. And the rest is history. As I'm planning for my double at the Grand Canyon. So, yeah, we'll see what but that's what happens a lot of times when you are in an addictive situation. When you finally decide and make that decision in your life, it's so pertinent to tonight's show that this young man is excited about getting out of the hole that he's in. That he's getting excited. Now, as a coach, I have to help him to be careful and be thoughtful, because I want him to do what he wants to do versus be a shooting star. See, I want you to do what you say you're going to do, because I don't want you to be a shooting star. I want you to choose the right goal. We've talked about goal setting here. I want you to choose an appropriate goal, a goal that makes you feel good, a goal that you can do step by step by step and get better at. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to go out there and do it all in 1 week like I tried to do 14 years ago and got sick. Okay? I want you to embrace it, to love it. All right? So yeah, that let me pull up the rest of my notes here. So that's kind of important as far as how it affects your relationships, because listen, money, lying, all those things, anybody's been in a relationship, you've all been around that kind of stuff. But when it becomes chronic and you're hurting people, different story. Okay? It really has a traumatic impact on your personal life, your intimate relationships, your relationships with your kids, your just relationship with friends, everybody. It's very, very impactful on them, and not normally in a good way. How about here's an interesting statistic. What percentage do you think are compulsive or chronic or problem gamblers? And some of these stats are a little old, but this one based in 2008, that in the United States, the percentage of pathological gamblers was 0.6%. That's less than 1%. And the percentage of problem gamblers was 2.3% in 2008. Studies commissioned by the National Gambling Impact Study. Did you even know we had this stuff? Has shown the prevalence rate ranges from 0.1 to 0.6. So, it's not a massive pool unless you're in Vegas. Then it looks like everybody's doing it, but they're not. So but it's enough. It's enough that it's got its own internet network. Okay, it's enough that a young guy can write a book about it because it almost cost him his life. It's enough. It's enough because they do movies about this stuff. It's enough. So whether it's 0.1, 0.6, I don't really care. If you're part of that, it doesn't matter, does it? It's 100% for you. It's 100% for you. So let's here's the thing here. How about addiction is defined as a disease? I'm not labeling. It's not me. Don't kill the messenger. Is defined as a disease by most medical associations, including the American Medical Association and the American Society of Addiction Medicine, like diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. Addiction is caused by a combination of behavioral, environmental, and biological factors. Okay, there you go. So, I mean, and since we're talking about an addiction here, these are all things that are relevant as a medical situation for you. And then here's an interesting little side note. How many people think that they pump oxygen into the casinos? Well, the answer is there is no doubt that the casinos keep the air chilly to give the same effect, but there's no mechanism actually pumping extra oxygen. I'm not even sure what that would do. Make you float around? Make you think lighter? I don't know. I do know this because I have studied this when I was doing a lot of brain work with seizures, that the floor, the carpeting pattern, next time you're in Vegas or a casino, look at it. I guarantee it's very busy. It's lots of different patterns. It's not a solid color here and there. It's patterns, because patterns will stimulate your brain when you're looking at all these patterns. Then with all the bells and stuff going on, it can literally trigger a seizure in you, but it's stimulating you. So you want to do something. It's real. It's not fake. It's real stuff. Okay. So that's kind of interesting there. And as we finish up here, let me take another thing here that I think was one of the most interesting. Here's one. Age group. No, I don't want to go there. Let's go this way. Hang on a second, guys. What age group? Probably most of you have guessed that the most common age group for compulsive gambling is 45 to 65, because they have the money. I mean, granted, a lot of seniors have the retirement type, but they're not apt to do that. But it's when you're in your number one age group for making the most money is your 40s, because it's taking you about 20 years to figure stuff out, and then you start cranking, and you can do well. And those are the gentlemen, people in general, that have the extra income to go out and gamble. And if they have the wrong personality, it can lead to major problems. So yeah, it's not young people. I mean, young people are dabbling and playing around with it. Like, they do that with a lot of stuff, though. Whether it's an addiction or not, that's another story. But because of the fact that they have more disposable income than 45 to 65-year-olds do, and if they have the wrong genetics or the wrong makeup, it can lead to an addiction, and that's the problem. All right, guys, as we kind of finish this thing up, let's just be aware that anything that you can't stop doing for 2 weeks has a hold on you. Work on it. If you need help with that, give me a call, 602-390-9144. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a coach. I'm a teacher. I've been around. I can help you. And that's the bottom line. I can help you. So let's talk about it if that's something you want to do. And if it's something I can't do, let's find somebody that can help you. All right? So just remember, look me up on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can catch these shows on my Facebook page, YouTube, all over the place. But we'd love to talk to you guys. We'd love to get your feedback on life and stuff. And next week we may have another guest. I don't know if it's going to be Mark because we just covered his topic. So we're going to do some other fun things coming up. We've got a couple more guests coming. And if not, I'll be winging it again. And we'll be talking about health, love, and life because there's a lot to talk about. This is Coach Arnie. Cece, thank you very much. And get that battery recharged as mine as well. And I hope you guys all have a great, great week. I love you guys. And I will talk to you later.